She didn't dress to impress. She dressed to ruin the blind date. Sitting in her car, she tore off her expensive designer clothes, threw them aside, and slipped into ripped jeans and flip-flops. A rebellious smirk crossed her face as she applied smoky eyeshadow, exaggerated lipstick, and deliberately messed up her smooth hair until she looked nothing like someone going to a blind date. Anyone who didn't know would think she was a rebellious girl heading into a fight. With a confident sway in her walk, she entered the hotel, unaware that the man behind her was completely drawn to her bold and messy appearance. They got into the same elevator, and the man, Junji, glanced up and down at her. Nice figure, he thought, but the makeup was way too heavy. He quickly looked away as the elevator stopped, and she walked straight toward the rich, second-generation man sitting at the dining table. Chewing gum and blowing bubbles, she crossed her legs casually, looking completely uninterested. The rich man frowned, unable to understand who could possibly fall for a girl like her. Xiaoyun calmly told him that she was only there to complete the formality of the blind date, and after it ended, he could just tell his family that he didn't like her type. Hearing that, the man realized she had dressed like this on purpose. He hated being played, so he grabbed a glass of water and splashed it directly on her face. Then he called home, complaining that this girl embarrassed him and even had a boyfriend while coming to a blind date. He left in anger, while Xiaoyun sat there, humiliated and drenched. She went to the restroom to clean herself up, trying not to cry. When she was ready to leave, she happened to share the elevator again with Junji. This time, with her makeup wiped off, her natural face caught his attention again, though she didn't notice it. As she stepped out, she accidentally bumped into someone, dropping her hair clip. Junji picked it up, intending to return it, but his friend, the same rich man, called to complain about the date, saying the girl tried to use him and deserved what she got. Meanwhile, Xiaoyun returned home only to be met with her mother's anger. When she talked back, her mother slapped her hard across the face, shouting about why she dared to go on a blind date on her own. Xiaoyun was already used to her mother's temper. Since childhood, she had lived according to her mother's plans, but this time she didn't want to obey anymore. She wanted to make her own choice in marriage, no matter what. Her mother was furious, unable to understand how she had given birth to such a daughter. A fortune teller had once said that Xiaoyun was born under a curse that would drive away all the men in the family. When her father cheated, her mother believed it was Xiaoyun's bad luck that caused it. Since Xiaoyun wasn't her only daughter, her mother's heart filled with hatred, wishing she'd leave home forever. Looking at her mother's face, Xiaoyun tried hard not to cry. She had even once suspected she wasn't her mother's real daughter. But when she secretly took a strand of her mother's hair for a DNA test, it clearly showed they were biological mother and daughter. That only made the truth harder. Her mother simply hated her. Heartbroken, Xiaoyun wandered the streets aimlessly until she saw a man walking ahead. By coincidence, it was Junji. She quickly composed herself and called out to him. Junji recognized her instantly, but she had no idea who he was. She found his look strange, tried to greet him politely, but he ignored her and walked away quickly. She was speechless, but determined. She caught up and asked if they had met before. Junji stopped but said nothing. Later, he met his girlfriend at a hotel and said coldly, "Let's break up." She asked why, and he replied that her family's company was too small for him to grow. Furious, she almost slapped him, but he didn't care, saying he'd enter high society on his own. As he walked out, he noticed a familiar hair clip, the same one Xiaoyun had dropped. He picked it up, intending to return it, but later that night, he ran into her again. When he learned that Xiaoyun and his subordinate Ji were friends, he only responded casually and left. The next day, Xiaoyun began working at the supermarket where Ji worked. Fluent in several languages, she quickly impressed customers, which surprised Junji. What shocked him more was when their supervisor, Changshu, arrived for inspection and also knew Xiaoyun. Back during that disastrous blind date, Changshu had been scolded by his brother because of her antics. Seeing her now, he immediately approached her. To keep her identity hidden, Xiaoyun quickly pulled him aside and explained she wanted to make her own living. Changshu didn't understand, but agreed to keep her secret. Junji and Jia were puzzled. Why would a rich man like Changshu know a cashier? Ji even suspected Xiaoyun was secretly wealthy, but she cleverly made up excuses and fooled them both. One day, a rude customer came in, tasting samples and spitting them out, mocking Ji by saying she looked like a bar girl. Xiaoyun couldn't take it and fought back with words. The woman tried to slap her, but lost balance and fell onto some boxes. The scene escalated and ended up at the police station. Junji arrived to bail them out, demanding both Xiaoyun and Ji apologize to protect the company's reputation. Ji agreed, but Xiaoyun refused, insisting she did nothing wrong. It was the customer who started it. Annoyed, Junji fired her on the spot and left with Ji to apologize. But the next day, the same rich woman came to the company, saying she wanted to see Xiaoyun and apologize in person. It became clear that Xiaoyun had handled the situation correctly. Realizing this, Junji's attitude attitude softened. He told her that his father had once been a security guard and his mother worked as a maid for a rich family, so he took his job seriously to give his parents a better life. He explained that he fired her only to teach her a lesson because she couldn't just quit whenever she was angry. Hearing his sincerity, Xiaoyun's heart softened, and for the first time, she looked at Junji with quiet admiration in her eyes. Xiaoyun met Junji's mother again at the supermarket, and they quickly hit it off, even going to a cafe together for a chat. Later that evening, the employees gathered for a barbecue dinner, and though Junji didn't have to go, he joined just to get closer to Xiaoyun. When he saw a male colleague trying to make her drink alcohol, Junji reached over and switched her glass for water, pretending to act shy, but actually showing perfect control. Xiaoyun's heart began to race, and before leaving, she walked up to Junji, teasing him with a smile. The two exchanged a few playful words, and love quietly began to bloom between them. But in the corner stood Ji Yi, who had long secretly liked Junji. When she realized he was interested in her best friend, her heart sank. Out of jealousy, she quietly investigated Xiaoyun's background and discovered she was a rich heiress. Pretending to be innocent, she acted like a kind, naive friend, blocking drinks for Xiaoyun at the table and later helping her call a cab, successfully winning her trust. Then, with a facade of purity, she continued playing her act. Xiaoyun, who had never dated before, was completely captivated by Junji's gentle moves and thoughtful gestures. When she got home that night, her mind was filled with thoughts of everything that had happened. At first, she hesitated to confess her feelings because of her friend's presence, but when Ji Yi realized that Junji only had eyes for Xiaoyun, she accepted her loss and encouraged Xiaoyun to go after him. Such selfless friendship was rare, even if it meant giving up the man she loved. With Ji Yi's support, Xiaoyun decided to confess her love. That night, she called Junji out and started with small talk before nervously confessing her feelings. To her shock, Junji rejected her without hesitation. Trying to stay calm, she forced a smile and turned to leave, but Junji stopped her, saying, "How can a girl confess first? I liked you before you liked me." Then he started talking about his stable income, house, and car, his tone gentle and sincere. Moved by his warmth, Xiaoyun's heart melted completely, unaware that beneath his tenderness hid layers of lies. Soon after, the two officially started dating. A few days later, Xiaoyun went on a business trip with her brother. The moment she landed, she called Junji to meet up. Shy and nervous, she couldn't even look into his eyes, but Junji, ever the charming one, pulled her closer, his gaze soft and full of affection. He took her out to eat, and when she seemed too shy to start, he ate with her and even wiped a grain of rice from the corner of her lips. On the way home, Xiaoyun took his hand and the warmth of his touch filled her with peace. Junji smiled brightly, already dreaming about meeting her family. But what he didn't know was that Xiaoyun's relationship with her family, especially her mother, was terrible. Years ago, a fortune teller had said Xiaoyun was cursed and would bring misfortune to all the men in her family. Her mother never liked her, sometimes beating her, sometimes cursing her, and only wished she would marry quickly and leave. Meanwhile, Xiaoyun's brother suddenly went missing after their trip. His phone couldn't be reached, and when their mother found out Xiaoyun had returned home alone, she immediately assumed the worst, accusing her daughter of causing harm to her brother for money. Crying and heartbroken, Xiaoyun tried to explain, but her mother wouldn't listen and attacked her in rage. Xiaoyun wept silently, wishing she could trade places with her brother. Soon after, her mother fell sick from grief, refusing food and surviving only on alcohol, while her father continued to eat and drink carelessly, as if nothing had happened. When her mother saw him happily eating meat and joking with the housekeeper, she snapped, throwing down her chopsticks. Their younger daughter made things worse, saying the dead can't eat, so the living should. That was the first time her mother ever lost her temper so violently. She couldn't believe her husband cared more about food than their son's life. Furious and heartbroken, she screamed at him, but he just told the housekeeper to bring more meat. Later, he called Xiaoyun in and told her to take her brother's place in the company. Though she wanted to refuse, she had no say in the family. Back in her room, Xiaoyun read Junji's text messages, each word filled with concern and warmth, as if he knew something had happened. In truth, Junji had learned of her family's tragedy from the news and saw it as a chance to make her rely more on him emotionally. His calculated kindness deeply touched Xiaoyun, who, recalling her mother's curses, grew worried that her bad luck might harm Junji too. After thinking long and hard, she decided to break up with him, tears streaming down her face as she said she didn't want to drag him down. Junji comforted her gently, and eventually she confessed her true identity, that she was from a wealthy family and had been told since childhood that she would bring misfortune to men. Hearing this, Junji pretended to be deeply moved. He hugged her tightly, his strong shoulders giving her false comfort, but deep down, he was already calculating his next move. He knew that Xiaoyun's father might soon name her as the heir to the family group, and such an opportunity was too valuable to lose. So he continued his act, charming her with sweet lies, and Xiaoyun, innocent and trusting, fell deeper in love. She even whispered, "Please don't don't leave me," unaware that Junji's affection was nothing but a trap. With his handsome face and smooth words, he could melt any heart. Soon, he became bold enough to confront Xiaoyun's stepmother face to face, pretending to be respectful, calling her madam, and claiming that her husband had surrounded himself with unfaithful women. But luckily, he had chased them away for her. In truth, he was spending the husband's money freely, eating lavishly, dressing luxuriously, even buying the housekeeper a designer bag. When the family's son went missing, he pretended to offer comfort, only for Xiaoyun's mother to finally reach her breaking point, grabbing him by the hair and screaming, flipping the entire dining table over in fury. Yuma grabbed her by the shoulders and warned her sternly not to mess with her again, saying even a rabbit has its limits. Xiaomei was terrified, though she still muttered curses, calling Yuma crazy and saying she couldn't handle her man or control her son. Yuma gritted her teeth and threatened coldly that if Xiaomei dared to speak again, she'd burn her face with a hot iron. That was enough to silence Xiaomei completely, because when a woman truly loses control, the consequences are unimaginable. She knew better than to keep provoking her. Before leaving, Yuma warned one last time, "I'll be back again. However long you live with my husband, I'll make you suffer for just as long." The truth was, Yuma's marriage had never been happy. Ever since giving birth to Xiaoyun, her husband had been out with mistresses, ignoring her pain and letting other women humiliate her openly. She had placed all her hopes in her son, wishing he'd grow up fast, take over the family company, and move out with her to start fresh. But fate struck too soon, and tragedy came before that dream could happen. Drowning in sorrow, Yuma's grief made Xiaoyun too afraid to go home. Instead, she went driving with Junji to clear her mind. As they talked about their future, Xiaoyun said her dream was to start her own company, become financially independent, and not rely on her family. Hearing that, Junji's face changed slightly. Xiaoyun added that she hated lies more than anything. Once someone betrayed her trust, she could never believe them again. Junji's eyes flickered nervously, unsure what to say. Since Xiaoyun had nowhere to go, he took her to his own place. There was only one bedroom. And since she hadn't brought any clothes, he took her shopping. They wandered the mall hand in hand like an ordinary couple. But when they reached the lingerie section, things got awkward. The saleswoman kept complimenting Xiaoyun's figure, gesturing as she spoke, making her blush red with embarrassment, while Junji tried and failed to hold back his laughter. After their shopping trip, they went for dessert. Wanting to cheer her up, Junji asked what she wanted to do, and surprisingly, the rich girl said she wanted to ride bicycles. Amused by her simplicity, Junji agreed. The two rode along the lakeside, one in front of the other, laughing freely. When they grew tired, they sat by the water, chatting about life. Junji asked why she refused to rely on her wealthy family since not everyone had such privilege, but Xiaoyun's answer was firm. She didn't want a life without love. She asked him, "Would you?" leaving Junji speechless. Having grown up poor, his greatest dream was to enter high society. But to do that, he'd have to use and hurt Xiaoyun. Did he really have the heart to do it? Being part of a rich family meant luxury cars, villas, endless money, and designer brands, the dream life of so many people. But Xiaoyun felt nothing but emptiness. Her family had no warmth, no affection among siblings. Her biggest wish was to move out and build a small home of her own with Junji. But then, the housekeeper called, saying her father wanted her back to take her late brother's position in the company. It sounded like a great opportunity, maybe even a path to inherit the business one day. Yet Xiaoyun refused. Her father's face turned cold, saying if she wanted independence, then she should return all the financial support she'd ever received. Shocked, Xiaoyun fell silent. The amount was enormous. It would take 10 years of work to repay. Remembering all the emotional abuse she'd suffered, she begged for mercy, but her father wouldn't bend. With no choice, she packed her things and left home. Soon after, the media exposed her part-time job at the supermarket, publicly revealing her as a rich heiress. No one knew who leaked it, and even Xiaoyun was confused. The story blew up online, and her video views passed 100,000. Her sisters immediately grew suspicious, wondering if she exposed herself to compete for inheritance. Her mother was furious, unable to accept that Xiaoyun might replace her dead son's position. The whole family was in turmoil. The only person not surprised was Junji, because he was the one who leaked it to the reporters. Ever since he learned she didn't want to take her brother's place, he'd tried to persuade her countless times, but nothing worked. So he forced her into it. Once she took over the company, he'd rise with her as her boyfriend. This is why one should never fall in love carelessly, especially with a man like him, a cunning opportunist who sells you out while smiling. Xiaoyun, blinded by love, had no idea. She had become a complete fool for him. Junji even escorted her home himself, where her mother immediately started interrogating her coldly. But Xiaoyun was used to it. She calmly said she already had someone to marry and would soon move out. Her mother scoffed, having already discovered that her late son had transferred his shares to Xiaoyun. She didn't believe for a second that Xiaoyun had no ulterior motive, so until the truth came out, she refused to let her leave the house. Desperate to escape, Xiaoyun couldn't stop thinking about those shares. Were they truly a gift from her brother, or was someone manipulating everything behind the scenes? To distract herself, she met up with her rich best friend. Riding in a luxury car with a chauffeur opening the door, entering a massive walk-in closet full of brand new designer clothes, $1,000 makeup, limited edition handbags, and sparkling jewelry, it all felt unreal. Her friend handed her a glass of champagne as they sang in the car, laughing like royalty. After the media exposure, Xiaoyun quit her supermarket job and prepared to take her place as the company's new leader. Ziyi, her friend, now enjoyed luxury too, covered in the scent of money from head to toe. No one would believe she was once a cashier. The two women drank happily and later invited Junji and Changshu to join them. Since Changshu didn't get along with Xiaoyun, his attention turned to Ji instead. A rich girl and a poor man, a wealthy heiress and a humble worker. It was quite a match. When a 20-meter-long luxury car arrived, the two women stepped out gracefully in heels, instantly turning heads as they entered the bar. The handsome men and pretty women became the night's highlight. After having fun, they drove to the seaside, laughing and chasing each other under the night sky, forgetting all their troubles. Later, they went to Changshu's villa, where Xiaoyun went into the kitchen to get some wine, and Changshu followed her in, asking curiously if she was really in love. Xiaoyun, who had never been in love before, instantly refuted Changshu's teasing, but to her surprise, he suddenly became serious and told her that when a girl falls in love, she shouldn't give her whole heart. Not long ago, Changshu had met Junji's ex-girlfriend and learned from her complaints about Junji's real standards when choosing a partner. Though he and Junji were close friends, watching Xiaoyun throw herself completely into the relationship made him uneasy, so he felt the need to warn her. But Xiaoyun couldn't understand his hint and thought he was mocking her instead. Realizing he couldn't win an argument with her, Changshu dropped the subject and the two returned to the dining table, laughing and raising their glasses. But the moment someone mentioned her brother, Xiaoyun's eyes filled with tears and she broke down crying. Junji took her to the seaside to calm her down and she wept the entire way, her grief for her late brother painfully clear. Junji might have been a manipulative man, but seeing her so heartbroken, he decided to comfort her. Strangely, her sadness turned into affection for him almost instantly. Whether it was true love or emotional confusion, even she couldn't tell. When they returned to the villa, Changshu pulled Junji aside and asked bluntly if he was with Xiaoyun for money or because he truly loved her. The question pierced Junji's hidden insecurity, but he laughed coldly, saying, "So what if it's for money? You were born in Rome. I'm just trying to reach it on my own. Is that wrong?" His words made Changshu furious. Such shameless logic from a man who called himself a friend. Enraged, Changshu nearly punched him. Meanwhile, the romantic drama between the rich and the poor wasn't limited to them. Changshu himself had fallen for Ji, a working-class girl, despite his mother's disapproval. He decorated the streets with lights to make her feel safe, bought her new clothes, and rushed to her side whenever she called. To Ji, he was the perfect boyfriend, and she soon agreed to be with him. But when the news reached Changshu's mother, she was furious to learn that Ji hadn't even finished high school and worked part-time. A wealthy matriarch like her couldn't accept such a daughter-in-law. She called Ji to meet her, sitting across with a cold, intimidating aura. Before Ji could say a word, the older woman cut straight to the point, telling her that their family would never accept someone like her, that Changshu was just blinded by youthful impulse and would eventually lose interest. Holding back her tears, Ji forced a smile and said she would handle it herself, unwilling to cling to a love without blessings. When she returned home, Changshu was waiting outside in the rain. She wanted to end things, but couldn't say it. The warmth of his embrace broke her resolve, yet her eyes, full of sorrow, told him everything. Without needing words, he understood. After comforting her, he went home, only to be scolded again by his mother, who threatened to cut off his financial support if he didn't end the relationship. Still, he couldn't stop thinking about Ji Yi and sent her heartfelt texts instead. Eventually, his mother found out again and called Ji Yi once more. Dressed neatly, Ji Yi met her at a cafe, where the woman repeated her threats and declared she'd end Changshu's allowance. Ji Yi's eyes turned red with frustration. She couldn't understand why there was such a cruel gap between the rich and the poor. Because she loved him so much, she didn't want to ruin his future and finally decided to end things. Changshu stood silent for a long time before agreeing, his voice trembling as he said goodbye. But as fate would have it, heavy rain suddenly poured down, stopping them from leaving. Holding hands, they walked together through the storm, postponing their farewell. Perhaps destiny still tied them together. When news of the wealthy heiress dating a poor boy spread, the office exploded with gossip. No one could believe a girl born with a silver spoon had fallen for someone from the slums. They mocked Junji too, saying Xiaoyun must have have fallen for his good looks, since there were plenty of handsome freeloaders like him around. Junji ignored the rumors. Soon, Yumba's company representatives approached him, offering a deal. If he left Xiaoyun, they'd give him a job at the company. For most people, it would have been a dream offer, but Junji had bigger ambitions. He had worked too hard to get close to Xiaoyun just to give it all up now. Marrying into her family and becoming part of the elite was his ultimate goal, so he refused and continued his relationship with her, keeping up the image of a loving boyfriend. Meanwhile, Xiaoyun's father, Yumba, was losing sleep. He tried to talk some sense into his daughter, but she was too deeply in love and even thinking about marriage. Their talk ended badly. Back in her room, Xiaoyun accidentally found a key that her late brother had left behind. Following the clue, she discovered a hidden safe behind the wardrobe containing company stock certificates and a USB drive. She carefully stored them away and told Junji everything. Since she had now officially taken her brother's position, she brought Junji to visit the company. The office was small, and Junji immediately began suggesting renovations, dreaming of his rise in status. But Xiaoyun, who was never ambitious, firmly refused. As they left the building, Junji ran into his ex-girlfriend. Once they had been sweet lovers, but he broke up with her because her family's company was too small. The ex, still bitter, warned that he would eventually trap himself with his greed. Junji ignored her, insisting he'd climb higher and leave the poor world behind. Furious, she went straight to Xiaoyun, telling her everything, that Junji had used her, that he was only after her money, and that she must never marry him. But Xiaoyun refused to believe a word, defending Junji and assuming her ex was only jealous. She trusted Junji completely, blinded by love. Later, she visited Junji's mother, whom she always got along well with. As they chatted, Junji's mother showed her a drawer full of old photos, pictures of Xiaoyun that Junji had kept, even one with her childhood hair clip. Shocked, Xiaoyun realized Junji had investigated her long before they met. Their first encounter had never been coincidence, it was all planned. Disgust filled her heart like poison. When she confronted Junji, she expected excuses, but to her horror, he admitted everything, smiling as if it were no big deal. And that was when Xiaoyun finally realized she had fallen for a complete lie. After realizing she had been made a fool, Xiaoyun's love turned into bitter hatred. Her eyes toward Junji were now cold as ice, and when she left, Junji was filled with a rare sense of regret. At first, everything he did had been calculated and deliberate, but after spending so much time together, he had unexpectedly grown genuine feelings for her. Still, he never imagined things would end like this. Heartbroken and humiliated, Xiaoyun stood before the mirror, her reflection full of pain, and finally decided it was time for revenge. She cut off her long hair, once her pride, and applied flawless makeup, transforming herself into a completely different woman, one who would destroy Junji piece by piece. Seeing her change so completely, Changxiu quickly understood what had happened. During their conversation, Xiaoyun demanded that he fire Junji, but because of his friendship with him, Changxiu refused. Before leaving, he warned her to stay calm, but Xiaoyun's expression remained emotionless. A woman hurt in love only becomes sharper. Using a business collaboration as an excuse, she summoned Junji to her company. The meeting room was empty, and after waiting 3 hours in silence, Junji finally went to her office. When Xiaoyun saw him standing there, trapped in her hands like prey, she felt a twisted satisfaction of revenge. But then Junji suddenly pulled her close, pinning her against the wall, whispering confusing words of love that left her stunned. It was hard to tell if he was begging or manipulating. Still, Xiaoyun stayed calm this time, telling him coldly not to expect forgiveness. Junji went home that night in silence, where his mother asked why Xiaoyun hadn't been visiting anymore. Memories of their past sweetness flashed before his eyes, and he realized too late that his schemes had cost him something real. But no matter how much he regretted it now, Xiaoyun refused to give him another chance. Around this time, Xiaoyun's eldest sister took notice of Junji's work ethic and recommended him for a job transfer, forcing the two to meet again at the same company. They avoided each other completely. Different elevators, different tables, barely any words. Xiaoyun's coldness tore at Junji's heart, while Ji, now working there too, began to understand his old ambition. Perhaps, she thought, he wasn't entirely wrong. After all, everyone wants to climb higher. Lying is wrong, yes, but maybe he truly fell for Xiaoyun later. Her words made Xiaoyun hesitate for a moment, but then she remembered all the lies Junji had told her and hardened her heart again. Soon after, Ji and Changxiu had a huge argument. Seeing Ji crying, Junji took her out to eat and walked her home. But just as they reached the door, they ran into Xiaoyun and Changxiu, and jealousy instantly filled the air. The tension between the four was unbearable until Ji's cheerful personality broke the the awkwardness. When Xiaoyun learned that Junji had only wanted to ensure Ji got home safely, her anger faded, and she started to calm down. As she turned to leave, Junji offered to drive her home. That single gesture reignited her temper. She leaned forward, hand on his shoulder, her face inches away, only to pull back with a smirk as if to say she was in control now, then strutted away in heels, leaving Junji standing alone by the window with the wedding ring he'd once bought for her. Tears shimmered in his eyes. He had worked so hard to climb the social ladder, only to end up heartbroken. Perhaps it was karma after all. Xiaoyun, done with love's pain, threw herself entirely into work. Her father praised her growing leadership, while her mother continued to secretly investigate her eldest son's supposed death. What she uncovered shocked everyone. The eldest son hadn't died. He had faked his disappearance, unable to bear the pressure of being the heir. Even in a powerful family, happiness was just an illusion. Realizing this, Yuma's resentment began to fade. For the first time, she spoke gently to her daughter, and though Xiaoyun pretended not to care, her heart softened with quiet joy. At work, she continued keeping her distance from Junji, though her older sister noticed everything and later told their mother. The two families soon discussed a marriage alliance, and both matriarchs met and got along so well that they wished the wedding could happen immediately. When Xiaoyun's mother told her she planned to arrange her marriage to Changshu, she didn't protest. After one failed relationship, love no longer mattered to her. She agreed to date Changshu and asked about Ji, learning that his mother's threats had forced him to let her go. A few drinks later, Xiaoyun and Changshu tried to get closer, but when their faces drew near, neither could let go of the people still in their hearts. Just then, Junji walked in with Ji. Seeing the two together in such a moment, Junji quickly led Ji away to protect her from heartbreak, but Xiaoyun had already seen them. Her chest tightened with strange emotions she couldn't name, and she abruptly ended her date with Changshu. Later, she confronted Junji, expecting him to admit jealousy, but he simply said he was worried Ji might misunderstand. His calm confidence left her speechless. He was still the same maddening man she couldn't read. Slowly, Junji's mother reached out again, visiting Xiaoyun and showing kindness that began to melt her guarded heart. One late night, Xiaoyun brought drinks to Junji's office, pretending she had bought too many, brushing her hair nervously as she handed one to him. Junji didn't expose her shyness and gently suggested they take a walk. Meanwhile, Changshu's mother continued to oppose his relationship with Ji, cutting off his allowance and even ordering the landlord to evict the girl. After so much pressure, the couple finally broke up. Changgu was devastated, drowning his sorrows in alcohol every night until his mother, unable to bear his pain, agreed to meet Jai again. She expected the girl to beg for forgiveness, but was shocked when Jai refused, saying she didn't want to hold Changshu back. She was just an ordinary worker, and he came from wealth. It was the first time his mother had seen her proud son be rejected, and Ji's dignity and kindness changed her mind. She finally approved their relationship, urging them to date seriously and marry without breaking up again. With family support, Changgu and Ji reunited happily, closing their story with peace and love. But Junji and Xiaoyun's path was far from over, for though revenge once brought satisfaction, love, when twisted by betrayal, burns even slower, and Junji was about to learn just how painful it was to lose everything he schemed for. To win back Xiaoyun's heart, Junji began working tirelessly, staying late every night just to finish an important project plan for her. At the same time, Xiaoyun's elder sister, who had long coveted the position of company president, kept offering strategic ideas to strengthen Xiaoyun's role in the company. When that same sister later offered Junji a promotion in exchange for betraying Xiaoyun, Junji was torn, but instead of taking advantage of the opportunity she had once dreamed of, she chose to resign. Once upon a time, Junji had wanted nothing more than to climb the social ladder through Xiaoyun, to become a phoenix man, rising from nothing into wealth and power. But now that the chance was right in front of her, she refused it without hesitation. It was clear, this time her feelings for Xiaoyun were real. Reflecting on their past moments together, Xiaoyun's own heart began to soften. She thought about calling Junji, but knowing that Junji had lost everything and was now struggling, her pride and guilt kept her silent. On the other side, Junji's overwhelming inferiority made her avoid Xiaoyun completely, telling her they should never contact each other again. It was a cowardly way to end things, and Xiaoyun couldn't accept it. Angry and hurt, she went straight to Junji's home to demand what she meant by those words. The two ended up at their favorite restaurant, the same one they used to visit when everything was still simple. Xiaoyun, trying to hide her feelings behind her usual proud expression, ate her food with no hint of disgust, despite the humble dishes, which made Junji laugh for the first time in a long while. Afterward, they went for a walk in the park, the very place where Xiaoyun had confessed her love for the first time. They talked for hours, reminiscing about old times, until Junji finally said softly, "I'm sorry." That single phrase broke through Xiaoyun's defenses, and tears welled up in her eyes as they reconciled and renewed their love. From that day forward, their world seemed brighter again. The four friends, Xiaoyun, Junji, Changshu, and Ji, once more gathered together, sharing laughter and peace. Ji, now happily in love, was treated like a princess by Changshu, who protected her every moment. Watching them, Xiaoyun couldn't help feeling a little jealous. teasing that after all this time, no one had proposed to her yet. The moment she finished speaking, Junji smiled, reached into his pocket, and pulled out the same wedding ring he had once bought long ago, ready to give her the promise he couldn't before.